Welcome to Sage Against the Machine, where we talk about Akwesasne, politics, and things we need to fix. I'm Joshua.
I'm Isaac.
And we welcome our guest here today.
And I'm Ron LaFrance Jr., and I'll be running for Tribal Chief this coming June 1st.
And I just wanted to say right away, we were just talking about this outside of the studio, but I really want to thank Ron for coming. This isn't the easiest venue to speak with, and I really respect that you did this because it's not, you didn't have to, and you put yourself in the hot seat, so to speak. A lot of respect for that.
Well, I think it's an opportunity for me to answer questions that you may have not have ever had answered. There are some things that, if it's out of line, I'll just say I can't answer that. And like I said, if I can answer everything that you throw at me, I'll go for it.
All right.
All
so
right.
Where do we want to start?
Where do we want to start? You haven't had enough, huh?
Actually, no.
No?
No. And there's a good reason for that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, but back in 2011, I ran a successful campaign to get a field house here in Akwesasne.
Okay.
So now with the 105L leases with the feds, we can get that done. So we're looking at creating the Akwesasne Wellness Center, which will include a workout area. It'll include stuff for walking for the dadas, and it'll include a field house. So I want to see that come to fruition, right? It was in 2011. It's now 2024. And back at that time, we came to the realization that it just wasn't fiscally responsible to do that, to sink TGF. So I waited, and now is the perfect opportunity, and we're going to go forward with that.
I wanted to, might as well get right into it.
Yeah.
So a lot of people know that you were coming on the show, so we got a bunch of feedback from people, and there's one thing that I always wanted to ask you about. So turning the IGA into the big hub for all the programs and for the tribe. I know that you've heard this before, and when I ran for council, I said I'd rather turn it into a community center, a place where everybody can gather, where we can have more of those connections between the Dudas and the young people, because I do think that we don't have enough of that. I like La'a he's very close with Minnie, but you don't see that as much these days.
Right.
And I think that could have been a great opportunity. So were you supportive of making it into a place to house most of the programs and such, or did you ever consider turning it into something that can really be used by the entire community every day?
Well, that's what the hope is for, right? There are large vacant spaces in there that can do just that. But the wellness center is where all that's going to happen.
Okay.
Right. So like your birthday parties and stuff like that, I think we can do that in the wellness center. There is a big meeting room where they'll be hosting the tribal meetings. Because the one at the tribal building now is just not big enough.
Yeah.
And it's hard to hear. You get the acoustics is very bad, and you have runners, and everybody needs to talk into the microphone because we're on on the web, and so it's I think with the Akwesasne Wellness Center we'll be able to answer all that. We'll be able to actually move in that direction where it can become a community center.
So are we looking at, but overall, did you consider, using the ARPA money to do that? And where's the funding going to come for the wellness center?
Well, it's through the 105L leasing program.
Can you explain that to the people?
So what it does is the federal government will pay for mortgages, right? So you can design a building, and it's there are certain categories that it needs to fit, right? And it's health, and it's mental health, and it's all these things. And if you can satisfy that, they'll pay you lease money. So what we're planning on doing is we're going to have to go out for, conventional loans, but the with the 105L leasing program, that'll take care of that. So it brings opportunity. I mean, we do have some 105L leases space right now, and it's paying for mortgages, it's paying for the operation. So it is a good thing, right? How long that's going to last, we don't know, but it's been codified. So, if the orange guy gets in, that might be one of the programs that get hit, right? It always affects the people that it shouldn't, right? So that's what we're hoping for.
All right.
So where do you want to go now?
I don't know, man.
I was waiting for you. I mean, I know we can't keep Ron here forever.
Yeah.
And I wanted to hit land claims.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Go for it. What do you want to know?
First of all, I wanted to know how did this process first started? Because land claims was like dead, and then it wasn't dead, and then we have this Judge Kahn's decision, which states that New York State indeed did violate the Non-Intercourse Act, and that only an act of Congress can alter the bounds of reservation.
Right.
So when I read that, that means, well, New York State's really screwed up. For hundreds of years, they've been taxing and building things on land that does not belong to them. So why are we negotiating for not all of it? Why does the process work this way? Why isn't it this? You're wrong. Get out.
Well, one of the things that you have to be clear about is this current lawsuit is directly tied to the Seven Nations Treaty of 1797 or 1796, right?
Yep.
So that's all we could sue for.
Yeah.
Right. And what Judge Kahn didn't do, he'd never addressed the jurisdiction issue.
Okay.
Right. So that's why it's important that we need to stay and we need to finish this. Right. So if we can start purchasing land and getting land, and once this is settled, it all returns to Indian country. There's a lot of misinformation out there that it turned, we have to, file for trust, and we haven't. We don't. We have filed for land into trust and certain parcels, and that was to push the counties into settling this. And right now it's the state that's dragging their feet, and that's one of the updates that we have every month.
Well, one of the things too is with that, when you say Indian country, now does that not? I mean, it's very unclear, and I've been to meetings for the land claims. I've, done some studying on it, work with some people who are really, great researchers and have pulled all kinds of, data. But how are there assurances that that's going to be, that will revert to reserved land? And because ultimately this also has to go through Congress.
And that's the only way it'll come back.
Right. And I don't think that Congress is going to do that. And, so it's like, and not only that, but we have, Elise Stefanik is, right around here, and she's quite hostile to most of the interests that we all hold here. And that's just one, and that's a local representative, somebody who actually will have a say in how that goes down. So, I just don't, I'm not saying that it couldn't happen in Congress, but it seems to be a pretty fanciful idea that, even if a settlement is reached, which I disagree with, but that Congress will just say, okay, we're going to ratify this agreement. We're going to change the boundaries of the reserve. And when you buy land, now it's going to go to full reserve status. I just don't see how that's going to happen.
One of the things that I think that we have going for us, there's an outward migration happening here, right? There's a lot of vacant farmland. And these local towns and counties and even you could say the region for that matter is they need us. They need us more than we need them, right? So I mean, look at Fort Covington.
Yeah.
Right.
Look at Bombay. Look at Brazier.
Yes, and now Messina,
Mm-hmm.
right? We're slowly moving in. We're establishing businesses there, and what it does is it revitalizes their economy. Fort Covington would be dead.
Absolutely.
It would be dead
Mm-hmm.
without Twin Leaf, without East End, without the dispensaries. It would be dead, right? You would have had more people leave. So I believe that when we move into an area and start to develop it there, one, a lot of people get pissed off, right? Because now the Indians are moving in. But once they realize what we bring to the table, you know, I'm not saying that they're going to respect us, but they don't badmouth us the way they used to, and they don't treat us like they used to.
I think behind closed doors that they do.
And we do the same to them.
Oh, that's fine.
Right.
Yeah, we say it right out in the
I
fucking
mean,
open.
they used to be racist, but now they keep it to themselves because they don't want to be mean to their grandkids.
Well, that's
Who happen to be half Indian.
and I'll tell you, that's the thing is like, look, you guys know I'm half. I look like a fucking Irish guy. I got an orange beard, and I grew up with my mom's family. We left here when I was 4, but I know what white people say behind closed doors, and trust me, those conversations are happening even if they're not happening in our face. Now, any white person listening to this, calm down. I'm not saying it's all of you or even a majority, but it does happen, and you all know that it does. So, you know, the problem that I can't reconcile with this, with the idea that you're telling us is that, and it kind of goes back to what Josh is saying, is it's our land. So who gives a shit if we are moving back out there and they're having a problem with it, or that we need to slowly infiltrate like we're thieves in the night when it's our land? I don't understand why the council is so set on reaching this settlement instead of just declaring that's our land and we're going to go to trial for it back.
Yeah, we didn't have a decision like this in 1982 when it was filed.
Right.
We hadn't anything like that.
Well, what we had, you know, not long after we got back into the land claims was Sherrill.
Yeah.
Right. And in Sherrill, it said the only way that you can get land back is through land into trust. Right. It's a long, ugly, dirty process. Right. Because it shows the true colors of our neighbors. Right. They right away were.
They don't even want to sell you back the land.
Yeah. And you know, now you got getting land off of somebody. They'd rather sell it to the Amish than the Indians. Mm. Right. And we need to change that.
Well, but if we're, see, here's the thing, you know, and I know you asked me once, what are you, a lawyer now? And as PJ would say, tell him you're not a lawyer, but you know a little bit. But the thing is, I just don't understand why it has to be, you know, done in that manner. Because also, yeah, we have this decision now. And I also believe that the lawyers who are representing us are not right for the job, because I know we could find attorneys out there, native attorneys, who would fight this, you know, in a way that would be more representative of, because, I mean, you have to acknowledge the majority of the community does not want to settle. You know what I mean?
I don't believe that.
That's very true.
I do not believe
I mean,
that.
if we polled, I bet it would come in at least 70% are opposed to a settlement.
I'll disagree with that. And you know, because right now, and I'm going to be honest with you. All right. You have maybe 100 to 150 people that are holding our community hostage. And they're using the young people to do that. And that's not right.
Who's holding the community hostage?
I'm not saying I'm not going to say that, but you know what I'm talking about.
No,
you do.
Look,
you
if we're
do, because
on
you know
here,
what? I got surrounded, and I came out to meet with these people, right? When they came to the tribe that day, right? You had a majority of them were young people. I'm going to say 95%, 96% did not know what Ernest was saying. But they were all sitting there, and they're all, you know, it's like Longhouse, right? Somebody will get up and they'll make fun of, you know, the other side, and everybody laughs. But there's like 20 people that know what they're talking about.
But don't you think, well, one, just because you're not an expert, you don't have an expert level of knowledge on the land claims, I don't think that precludes anybody from having a strong opinion
No.
on it, especially because it's our land.
No, you're exactly right.
But you sitting here as a council member,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the incumbent seeking reelection, when you say you know who they are, I think that you have a duty to just speak and say who it is. You know, that's. I don't know who you mean, if you are going to claim that, you really need to. You need to say who it is.
No, and I'm not going to. Okay, and here's why. There has been a division created in our community that didn't need to happen. It didn't. It really didn't. All that needed to happen was one party needed to just withdraw. That would solve everything, in my opinion, to withdraw, because they don't. One, the Longhouse people, they don't believe that the Seven Nations of Canada Treaty is a valid treaty, right? Those will say that it was ratified by Congress. So it was codified into law, and it's in the treaty books, and it's, and then, there's talk about the ancestral claim. Well, the St. Regis Mohawk tribe never claimed that they had an interest in that, right? So, but we fought for that. Mm-hmm. And we got that taken out because there was an extinguishment language that, that they wanted in there. And they said, either you take that out or we're walking. And they did. But they did it in a way where it would, if the law changes, right? If Cheryl ever got overturned, then they would be able to bring that, the ancestral claim. The problem with that is the nation and MCA, they're not recognized in the United States as a duly recognized government, right? The tribe has no claim in the ancestral claim. So who brings that lawsuit? The worst thing that I want to see happen is this settlement going south, and we go back to court, because MCA and the nation will never survive discovery.
Why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they survive discovery?
Because they are not.
Or do you mean establishing standing?
Yes.
Okay.
So, So yeah, I say discovery. It is standing.
Well,
right?
Discovery is different, but
Right. But
you have to establish that you're a valid party to the.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that all happens in discovery, and then it'll be determined that the nation and MCA doesn't have standing, and I don't want to see that happen. I grew up in a longhouse. I believe in that system. I have a hard time believing in the people that are there, because they did me wrong a long time ago. They did my family wrong. So, it was easy for me to leave. It's hard for me to go back. The only time I go back is for funerals. Josh knows I was a singer. That's all I ever wanted to do, was be a singer. Mm-hmm. And they took that from me. So I chose not to. I don't feel welcome. So I go to places where I'm welcome. Unfortunately, that's not too many places.
Well,
but yeah, you know what I mean? I don't ever want to come to a point in the history of our people where our governments are not recognized in court. In my heart, they are. When it gets to the court, that's the first thing they're going to say is, you don't have standing. You're not recognized. And that would be, to me, that would be more damaging than them just withdrawing.
But we've already had another federal court decision with the Three Feathers Casino that established that the St. Regis Mohawk tribe is not the sole authority here, and that the traditional way of governing our people by Guyana Lagoa is valid. So, and I mean, the case with Roger and Salt, and you know what happened there. So it's not really entirely accurate to, say that can't happen, because it can. It already has. So we're looking at, yes, I understand the fear that some of the people on council have, and some of the people who are high up in these positions, and the lawyers for the land claim who are paying like $700 an hour, but who are all just interested in taking the money and running. And I'll say this too, so the idea that that would really happen, I don't think that that's realistic, because they can't just extinguish us. Not today. That's not going to happen. So why don't we stand on that? We have two decisions from federal court that one, establishes the tribe is not the sole authority. So I think that that's kind of a misnomer to, and that does irk me a little bit when the tribe asserts that they're the only authority here.
Yeah, but they were never given a government status. That's the difference.
But why do we need to ask for their acceptance?
I didn't say that. What the court never, in the Three Feathers decision, they never came out and said that the Guyana-Lagoa Longhouse was a recognized government. All they said was that the tribe is not the sole authority, which and I'm fine with that. I'm fine with either longhouse establishing economic ties in the community. What I do not favor is that they don't pay into the same services that they receive. Right? I mean, you go to the clinic, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now the dispensaries that your longhouse, I don't know what it is. Do they license them?
Sanction.
They sanction them. Okay. So when the money goes back to the longhouse, does it go? Does it cover healthcare? Does it cover housing?
But that's not.
Wait. Let me finish. Does it cover housing? Does it cover the roads? Does it cover maintenance? There's a lot of things. Does it cover the elder? I mean, that if they just paid into the elder's benefit, I would be happy with that. But they don't, right? There's no accountability to what the money is used for, where every single penny that the tribe has is accounted for. You can go and you can and come to the audit meetings, to the budget meetings, and every single penny is accounted for. I can't say that for the other governments.
Yeah, but that's not really relevant to the.
It sure is.
No, because
it is for me because you know what? There are businesses that don't contribute. Right? They use their water. They drive on the roads that we've paid for. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but
and they give jobs. They give back to all kinds of community.
Like what?
Funds and all that.
What funds?
For the they contribute to sports teams. They contribute to fundraisers. Now, I am not, because there are problems with what is going on at the Longhouse in terms of the money, but that's not where my focus is.
But is every penny accounted for? And
I have no way to know that.
Well, and that's a problem.
I don't see how that's a problem when we're talking about the tribe.
But now we're flipping the switch.
No.
Yeah. Oh, because
you're trying to deflect from the points raised about the tribe and put it back on the Longhouse when that's not it. The point is simply that the federal court said that the traditional way, Guyana-Lagoa, is a valid form of governance and that it was recognized as still being alive and breathing and that the federal court respected that. Now, if you disagree with the people who are handling affairs over at the Longhouse, that's fine. I have issues with that. I don't know if you know that. I haven't been going to the Longhouse either.
And it doesn't feel good, does it?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
But that... Nonetheless, that doesn't change the facts that that's already happened, and it doesn't change that for the tribe to come across and say assert we're the sole authority. That's a problem, and whether or not a court officially said that they recognize either the nation or Akwesasne, my longhouse, as an official governing body has no weight because we already know that it can happen. Now, Josh has talked about this many times. What we need to do is have the traditional people assert that and act in that manner. But there is no, and I'm not saying, I've never said that I want to burn down the tribe. I've never said that. I would never say that because there are great services that are administered by the SRMT. The employees are wonderful, and I appreciate everything that they do. But with that being said, it doesn't diminish that these other powers are out there. these other influences of the way to handle things.
Let me ask you a very simple question. Let's be simple. Okay. How many titles are there at the Nation Longhouse?
You mean sitting or
No,
total?
in total.
49?
No.
I mean, the whole Confederacy, yeah.
No, there's only 9.
There's 9 in the
Okay.
Mohawk
Right.
Nation.
Right now there is, what,
3,
4?
4.
3 or 4. One is, 2 of them are not from here. One of the Turtle Clan chiefs is from Six Nations, and the Bear Clan chief lives in Ganasatake, which is, he's married to his own clan. So, if you really want to follow the gonna let go, that's not allowable and that's not acceptable. But my point is how can you reach or not reach consensus when only a third of your bench is full?
I think
Because and let me just add this, because I think had it been full, there would have been a lot more dialogue than what's going on right now, right? There was, and I'm not going to say his name, but he was a Turtle Clan chief, and he was back when all of this was first going on. He said, "I do not agree with this settlement, but because the rest of council does, I am going to set aside my personal opinions and go what's best for the people." I'll never forget that. So and they didn't have a full bench back then either, but there was that thinking, right? That doesn't happen today. It doesn't happen. I don't like how they've turned a great thing into a monarchy. Right now they're saying, okay, Josh, well, your family, now they have, you have a title, and that's going to be ingrained in your family for eternity. That's not how we work.
No, it's not how it works.
And that's how it's turned
But
into.
I think, though, in the meetings, the Longhouse, for their end on this, the council is being directed by the people that they're not for this and they should withdraw. And I think that's their prerogative. And whatever internal stuff that the Longhouse has to fix, yeah, they have to fix. They have to fix, absolutely. If
people are going to leave.
If they want to act as more than just a spiritual body, which some people are for that.
Right.
Not me, but some people.
One of the because, like I said, I've been in I was raised in the Longhouse. What they do is when new people come in, they use and abuse them, and then
It's easy.
Yeah, because you know what, you can throw them away, right? People are disposable and replaceable. No one's irreplaceable, right? I don't like that. I never liked that. I've seen good people get disenfranchised. And when they're done, they spit them up and they kick them.
I think any organization suffers from that, especially with a community full of traumatized people.
Spiritual people,
Yeah,
you should never do that.
we shouldn't. But I mean, the Catholic Church has a long history of touching
I
kids.
don't really care about the Catholic Church.
I mean, I'm just saying, as
You know what
as
I
an
mean?
example,
but that's the whole thing. And then we always go back to we're colonized. We've been this and we've been that. Fact of the matter is we know better.
right.
We know better. And it happened to my dad. It happened to my family. Am I happy about that? No. Do I keep a grudge? I sure do, because I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember all of those things. I remember 1980. Do you remember, what happened in 1989? Mm-hmm. That was one of the saddest days of my life. Watching what they did to that man, removing his tongue, taking his horns. I never ever want to see that again. And they're trying to do that now. It's not something that you can just say, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
Right.
But we do have a process, and when someone's not following, when they're not coming to consensus and they're going to sign a big old document, they got to be reminded that, well, you got 2/3 of your people that aren't for this, so you don't get to act solo on your own authority.
Right.
And that's our internal thing to fix there. How does this process look like? So, there's negotiating for these things. I've seen the MOU. It's the secret thing that we've all seen.
Right. I mean, they've always had a copy of it, right? It's not like it was that I brought in the suitcase with the handcuff on. You know, no.
Yeah.
You know, it's been out there.
Yeah,
it's not a secret.
I just love when you have secret documents on the res. It's like, no, immediately everybody has it.
Yeah. Well, and with the advent of the phone, it's so much easier, right?
Yeah, I have it on my phone.
You know, because when you were at a tribal meeting, like, oh, what are you doing? Nothing.
Yeah.
You know, or you got people sitting there like this.
I'm for full transparency.
So am I.
And I don't have a problem with that, but you know, when there's sensitive information that shouldn't get out, it shouldn't get out.
Right. So, how was that all negotiated? What did that look like? Because I always want to go back to this document there where this judge says the state's in violation. Doesn't that alter like everything?
Well, that was one of the questions that when I first got back in office, and then in 22, was it? Yeah, 22. Yeah. When Judge Kahn rendered that decision, we were in land claims negotiations, and I asked the state. I said, "How does this affect these negotiations?" They said it doesn't. And I said, "What do you mean it doesn't?" They said the judge said that you guys violated, the Non-Intercourse Act, and he said, "Yeah, but you have to understand that the question of jurisdiction was never answered." Right. The same thing with the Three Feathers case. They said that way of life is we cannot say that it doesn't exist because it does. Right. What they didn't say in there that to be recognized as a government, then comes with all those jurisdictions. Right. That was never addressed.
Yeah, but again, that's really not relevant to it, because the moment that was the evidence presented in court. I know the attorney who argued that case. That's what was presented, was that way of governance is still alive, recognized by the United States, and was valid to the point that those guys beat that case. And while I might, disagree with them about some stuff, it was really awesome to see them stand tall and do that.
Why did they pack up and leave in the middle of the night?
Who? Oh, what do you mean? Who?
Where did all the machines go? Because that was gone. They did that all in the middle of the night.
Well, I'm quite sure that probably had a lot to do with money, and that's
okay,
which is fine.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the result is what matters, and the result was that was recognized as being alive and breathing.
Mm-hmm. I've never doubted that. Well, what I do disagree with. Hold on, let me finish. What I do disagree with is that the Confederacy recognizes the Nation Longhouse as the fire. Mm-hmm. Right. The fire went and moved to behind Tom Porter's, right? The Nation Longhouse. That's not to say that what the Guy and Let Go of Longhouse does is not legit, right? But they are not even recognized by the Confederacy as the Mohawk Nation government.
Yeah, but that's not, again, you're talking about legitimacy in the eyes of the outside.
No, I'm talking about within our own.
No, that's what you started this with. And what is in front of us is that a federal court said that Guyanagoa lives and breathes. Mm-hmm. It's a valid way of governing. And the thing is that we're not having, this seems like a tactic to pull everything about, to make it again about, well, the fire's here, the fire's there. The way that I was taught is that it's symbolic. You know what I mean? The people are the fire. So when you're doing that, it's just a deflection to try to minimize that those things happen. That's the
truth.
Yeah. It's also true that my longhouse fought that and won. And the judge explicitly said that is legit. So,
But now in terms of...
okay,
go ahead.
But... So it's fine, and we can argue about these things, and then it's going to be going back into the internal stuff about both of the longhouses, and that's fine. I don't think that really has any bearing on the situation with the land claims as far as the culpability of the tribe in pushing forward the settlement. You know, that it doesn't. You know, we can go back and forth and say, well, okay, yeah, that court decision happened, but where's their organization? Where's this? Where's that? That doesn't really matter, because right now, one, the Nation Longhouse, it appears to me from everything, and that's not, I don't go to that longhouse, no personal thing, but, from what I understand, it's 2/3 of, most of the people there are not for the settlement. So, and then you talk to people from the Nation Longhouse, and they say, we practice Gainongoa. So I believe that we're seeing both longhouses have been recognized as being valid. So as you go along that way, there's nothing that we can do that would, I just don't see a reason for the tribe to assert all this authority just because we're the recognized governing authority in the St. Regis Mohawk territory. That doesn't seem very weighty to me.
And that's your opinion, right? It's not fact. It's your opinion, right? I could say, well, I don't agree with you, Isaac. And some I do and some I don't, right? And that's cool, because that's who we are as people, right? We reserve that right to agree to disagree. Are we going to go outside and fight? Probably not.
We might.
Well, we're too old for that now.
I could beat the shit out of both of you.
Actually, he could. He does jujitsu.
I know he has that.
Yeah.
He looks like one of the praying mantises sometimes.
Yeah,
I watched it. Yeah,
I could fuck you guys up so bad. Like, that's what's cool when you train, because my son can fuck me up.
Yeah.
And he's like 100 pounds lighter than me. So let's,
Yeah, I don't want to fight anyone.
That's the cool thing about.
It's not fun anymore.
But the argument between the tribe and the longhouse is one as old as the tribe. Mm-hmm. So it's not one that's going to settle here.
No.
What I noticed, though, is that this has to get ratified by Congress. And the only thing that can change a treaty, whether or not the longhouse recognizes the Treaty of 1796, I argue with them over there all the time, too. Mm-hmm. They think the Seven Nations were legitimate. I said, we have wampum belts with the Seven Nations.
Right.
Like, clearly, the people in 1796 thought they were legitimate enough to be afraid of them. Mm-hmm. So we have all kinds of these great conversations. But the point is, like, this is going to go into court, or this is going to go before Congress, which will change that treaty. Will change what that treaty does.
I don't believe so, because we're not going outside of the boundaries of the treaty itself. If we were to throw in there that we wanted to include the ancestral claim, it definitely would change that treaty.
Well, yeah. I'm talking about this treaty because, when you read the treaty and you read the Franklin Huff's book, like, there's lands in it that aren't in the the areas.
Well,
and then there's those 3 islands that we have the first right to buy, and there's Barnhart Island itself, which has probably a very expensive dam on it that's been operating, according to New York State, on our land since the 1950s.
And generates tens of billions of dollars in revenue.
And a seaway, which is also on our land.
Trillions of dollars a year.
And a cool little park, which I like, by the way. I do like Barnhart Park, but like, this is all existing on our land, which they are in. So $70 million doesn't seem like a lot for all of that.
It does not.
It seems so little.
Here's the sad reality, right? We go into court. Say this falls apart, which it could, and it might, and it probably will. When we go into court, we are going to be lucky to get maybe $5 million in monetary damages. No court will award title, and then we're back to the process of the land into trust process. That's the only way to get our land back. We could do like you do and just claim it, right?
Yeah.
Take it over. But how are you going to get services for that?
Well,
How are you going to get the power? Because Niagara Mohawk or National Grid is never ever going to do that. They are not going to set power to houses where the land doesn't belong to, the
they need a right of way.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. They've been operating without a right of way now.
Right.
No, they do. We
years.
have a franchise agreement with National
On
Grid.
these lands in this
They carry over.
that are in
If there's a section in there that talks about the right of ways and the franchise fees, that all goes to the plaintiffs.
once it's ratified, once everyone signs, it goes through
Yes.
Congress. Until then, they've been operating all this time. That's the way I read that Judge Kahn decision. Everything, he kind of blew them away.
But yeah, he did.
So why? So that's it. It seems to me like New York
But
State's negotiating.
He did not mention jurisdiction.
No,
that's the key, because he did not say, yes, you stole the land, now it should revert back to the jurisdiction of the Indians or the Mohawks or whatever you want to call it.
I think one leads to the other, though. I don't think he needs to.
He does. I mean, it has to be clearly spelled out in his decision, because it'd be like going to tribal court, right? You know, I get awarded a land dispute, but it doesn't address everything.
Yeah, but that decision was simply telling that the boundaries haven't been changed. If we go to trial for the whole roll of baloney, then that would be established.
But we're not.
And here's the thing: even if like you're talking about services and not being able to get them, to move power and all that, do you really think that the federal government and the state government, if we went in and took over, Barnhart, do you really think that they wouldn't try to work with us on that?
No.
So they would just, all of that power that goes to New York City, and we prevent that from happening, that's just going to...
Look what happened in Standing Rock. Look what happened there.
I think they'd kill us all, but
Yeah,
that's
they
my
would.
that's my opinion.
Because you know what? The last thing that they want to have happen, and Cuomo said this himself, he says, I'm not sending my state police anywhere where I have to go to their family's house and say, your son was an awesome person, but sorry, he's dead. He got killed in something that I sent him. And he told me that. And I was like, well, but you're a coward.
That was before the sexual
You're-
allegations.
Yeah. Well, you're a coward because, you are the top man. If you're not going to do that, then what are you going to do? I don't taking over that vacant spot right across from Dollar General. That's one thing. Taking over Barnhart, you're going to need thousands of people for that. And here's the thing with our people. I have a great idea. You're going to follow me? You're goddamn right I am. Okay, so Tuesday at 7 o'clock in the morning, we're going to meet here, and then we're going to go. Well, 6:57, I'm the only one standing there. That's what our problem is.
I don't think it gets to that point, though. I don't even think a takeover of anything is even necessary. Like, I think the state is negotiating, and we can get more out of it. And I think because of the non-interactive,
it's done.
Is it?
Think about it. Really think about this. The state has no incentive to settle, right? Because one, they're going to have to pay taxes. The property in lieu of taxes forever. Right? We get paid for 35 years. They get paid forever. Right? They get our revenue share, which is going to, we're basically paying for this, right? And some will say, well, no, that's the state's paying. Whatever, right? So they really have no incentive to do this, right?
So what incentive do we have to do this?
We don't want to go to court. We don't.
Why?
Because we're going to lose in court.
You don't.
I do. And you said about the whole thing. Well, no. You know what's left in court? The Hogansburg Triangle. That's it. Everything else was dismissed.
That's not what it says, though.
No.
That's not what his decision says. Why is that so?
That's the boundary case.
Okay.
See, all he is saying is that an act of Congress did not disestablish the boundaries of
Right.
the territory.
Yeah.
Right? So that's okay.
The boundaries in 1796.
And that includes the mile square,
Yeah.
the meadows.
Yeah. And Cheryl doesn't apply here.
But oh yes, it does.
It says in there that it doesn't.
But
they didn't,
one of the things the mile squares, the meadows, the islands, though, that was all dismissed, and I believe it was 2015. And the only thing that they couldn't dismiss was the Hoogensburg Triangle because of the Indian nature of that triangle.
But then before that, like it says here, only an act of Congress, which means all of that's wiped out. That gets wiped out by this. Because this goes back to only an act of Congress can change the bounds of a reservation. So even that agreement didn't hold weight because it wasn't an act of Congress. That the earlier court case that released those other ones.
Okay. The reason why it was dismissed because of the lack of the Indian nature in those areas.
Yeah, that's what they said. That's like Cheryl. That's what Cheryl says too.
And that they weren't going to disrupt. They weren't going to displace
Hoogensburg.
people.
Yeah, Hoogensburg was like 90%, and they weren't going to displace. However, this agreement does say that Cheryl doesn't apply in this case because only an act of Congress can change the bounds of reservation. Even if all those people moved there, they weren't supposed to. Like all those other things that they negotiated don't matter because only an act of Congress, and we never had that act of Congress. The only time we'll have that act of Congress is if we sign this agreement and bring it to Congress. Then we get an act of Congress that changes the bounds of the reservation.
You don't know that. I mean, no.
I don't know that, but I think that's you asked me what the incentive for the state was. That's the incentive of the state. They fucked up for 200 years. And that's the incentive of the state because this kind of blows away their case. And it says it right in there. It says Cheryl doesn't apply in this case because of this. It's not like the Oneidas where they bought up a bunch of land and they're saying, okay, now it's
Indian land.
Yeah, now it's Indian land. It's not that. It's no, the state illegally took land and put a bunch of people on it. And we're not going to kick anybody off. And I don't think that's ever like,
right.
I don't think that's in our interest to kick people off.
Even I don't have that interest.
No, I mean, shit, just pay us your taxes.
Right.
Fuck it. Like,
and the same thing with these solar things. Like we met with them. I said the smartest thing you would do is to transfer that land to the tribe.
Yeah. It's the same thing with the hydrogen plant.
Yes.
Like I think the hydrogen, there's issues with it, but I don't think it's a total bad thing.
No.
In fact, it's shit, too bad we didn't invest in that. That'd be a cool thing to invest in.
You know, and there's a lot of misinformation about that, right? They're about, the water being boiling hot going into the river, directly into the rivers. That's not true.
No,
right? It goes into the industrial canal, and if it ever reaches the St. Lawrence, by then it's cooled down. And what are they putting? What is the end result of what's the waste from removing hydrogen from water?
Water and heat.
And heat.
Yeah,
but it's going into a system where it's an industrial
and algicides and biocides and that sort of thing because you don't want algae growing in.
But
go back
to your point you were trying
to what an ADHD tangent. Yeah, I fucking do that, man.
No,
but that's
Ron tricked you into.
No, I didn't.
He didn't. I see what he's doing. Don't worry. I know how to deal with.
I'm rubber, you're glue.
No, I think that's the whole point of it all was that it goes back to Congress and that it's the fear of the white people that we're going to kick them off is a stupid fear. We're not.
No,
you're our neighbors.
Yep.
We kind of like some of you.
Right.
We talk about you behind closed doors too.
That's true.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's with any society.
Right. Because you smell funny.
So we do it to each other.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's where I think the incentive for the state is all of that. That's the incentive of the state to negotiate. And, I wish I could see what's on their computers. I bet their email looks very interesting because, I don't trust them one bit. The federal government would love more Indian country and the state government wouldn't.
Right.
So
because it diminishes their
and their power. The federal government likes to have control over things. And
but here's the as far as I'm concerned, right? We are very studious people, right? If we can make a dime, we're going to make 50 cents, right? And that's what's happening, right? We are the fastest growing community, and we need to expand, right? Right now, there's a housing shortage. Right. And we're trying our best to satisfy that. But like we had the lending institution problem, which got rectified. So now there are banks that are willing to come onto the reserve to do mortgages, but only if who backs the loan.
Right. Someone's got to back the loan.
Right. And who is that?
I've never heard of Indian taking advantage of a bank or free money ever. Well, that's never happened.
But it's not free money.
No, I get
it's
it.
not free money. You know, and I would love to have a housing program where it's rent to own, right? Where you don't need a mortgage. But you know what? We need to get past that point where because when I rented, I hated it because it wasn't mine. You know what I mean? There's pride in ownership, and I keep telling people that, right? You know, if you can buy a house, do it.
I mean, I have a whole other idea about land usage and the way we think of things, but that's a whole nother show.
Yeah, that is.
Right.
We've had
Well, you and I have had some great conversations.
We have a cultural problem when it comes to land, and we have a values problem when it comes to the way we use land. But you know, in this case, like this is what, like, reading this decision, because I didn't. My crazy father handed it to me, and I'm like, I'm reading through it because he has.
Right.
And he's not the only one who has. A lot of people have. And they're saying the same thing. That's putting it to me the same way too. Is that, like, I'm less afraid of court. I can't compel anybody to do anything. Like, that's part of the mindfulness training. Shit's going to happen. What's going to happen. And if it's a mistake, it's a mistake. But I do feel that the state has a lot more to lose than we do.
Of course. And it's not. It doesn't have to do with land. It has to do with money. Right?
It's always money,
and that's what it's always going to boil down to. Do they want to have this go through? No, because then it puts them on a hook. That puts financially on the hook for the two counties, right? And in the end, you know, it's the casino revenue that's paying for everything, because I don't think the you know, area A and B, which is in Franklin County, is any more than, you know, maybe $1 million, because there's a lot of rural vacant.
And it's a lot of unarable land.
Yeah,
it's a lot of swampland.
And there's a lot. There's more in the St. Lawrence part of the thing than there is in the Franklin County thing. But what I like about the areas A and B is you know, there's valuable farmland, and you know, when people leave the area, what happens to that farmland? It turns into brush.
Yeah.
Or it'll turn into wetlands, which, you know, the Environment Division at the tribe, once they see a cattail or one of those reeds, they declare it a wetland, right? And you know, for the tribe, to disturb wetlands, we have to give 4 to 1. So if we disturb an acre of wetlands, the Environment Division gets to take 4 acres of land and turn that into wetlands.
I mean, wetlands are valuable.
They are.
They do.
I mean, it's a valuable part of the ecosystem, right? I mean, you take away the wetlands, you have no frogs. You take away the frogs, you know, some of the birds don't come back. Right. So when you take something out, say God forbid that you take away the frogs, what's going to happen to the mosquitoes? You know, you take away certain birds. You know,
mosquitoes.
Yeah. Well, you know, humans are one of the most destructive creatures on Earth.
They can.
I don't think any of us would disagree with that.
You know, because we're always looking to conquer something. Right. I had a bee problem. Instead of just leaving them alone and letting them do what they do, guess what happened? I got stung about 800 times because I wasn't smart enough to do it at night, right? I have kids. I don't want them getting stung. One already got stung, so I'm the big dad, and I go disturb the nest, and I paid for it.
Right.
But if I would have just left them alone and told the kids don't go over there, probably nothing would have happen the rest of the summer, right? But I didn't. So, yeah, you know, well, getting back to the state, like I said, they really have no incentive to do anything. So if they can keep on, you know, dragging this thing out longer and longer, sooner or later the judge is going to say, you know what, I had enough of this shit, and we're gonna go back to court.
So what if that happens? Okay, so if that happens, maybe it's the brave thing to do. Like I think I'm not the only one who reads this way, and I think a federal judge will read it this way too. It's already a federal judge had made that decision.
Yeah, he said that the boundaries of the 1796 treaty were never disestablished by Congress.
Right.
And that New York State violated the Non-Intercourse Act, Non-Traders Federal Intercourse Act. But he never addressed the jurisdiction. And that's the same thing with McGirt in Oklahoma. Right? All the people in Oklahoma were freaking out because, oh shit, we're getting taken over by the Indians now. Well, guess what? They didn't get any more land back. They didn't get any more jurisdiction. What they did was that the McGirt decision actually handcuffed them in certain areas like policing. At least here we have, if a white person commits a crime on the territory, they can be detained, and they can be held accountable for what happens here, especially with one VAWA with women.
But that's only with VAWA. There's plenty of. There's plenty of case history on that tribal courts can't prosecute non-Indians, aside from
traffic
VAWA stuff, yeah.
Yeah,
and traffic, yeah. Because that's only VTL stuff,
So, but that's always been that way, right? And I don't know. I am very skeptical that we're going to get any closer, right? I do think that, before the judge says you guys got to shit or get off the pot, that the nation is going to withdraw. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. And if the settlement goes through, there will still be a part of that settlement. That was one of the concerns from Howard, right? And we're like, no, that'll all be done in the internal agreement. Which is going nowhere because we haven't had meetings and whatever, right? Now MCA is going through, it looks like they might have a whole new council.
Probably.
And there's going to be a new Grand Chief because Abrams said he's not running anymore.
Yep.
And, I haven't really heard who's running for Chief or Grand Chief.
I can guess one of them.
Well, yeah.
I think Marlon's gonna do it.
I was gonna say John Bigtree.
Well, yeah. Well, yeah. And that's his right.
Yeah.
That's his right. Just like it's my right and your right and your right if you want.
I'll get 16 votes next time, motherfucker. I'm telling you.
You have 275 first cousins.
I don't. See, I'm half. I only have 100.
Yeah, see, for both of us, you can knock off about 80% of how many.
And my family's from Snai.
That's true. That is true.
Yeah.
So maybe you should.
You know all of my cousins.
Yeah. But it's tough. You know what I mean? And this election is going to be tough because you have an incumbent who has a vast knowledge of the institutional doings and don'ts of the system, and you have somebody that doesn't. He's my friend, and I've been campaigning, and they said, what about your opponent? I was like, what about him? Well, what do you know about him? I said, he's my friend, and I'm not going to say anything bad about him. I hope he doesn't say anything bad about me, but if he does, then so be it, right? He's still, at the end of the day, he's still going to be my friend if he chooses to do so, right? I mean, I don't have anything, negative to say against him.
We certainly aren't trying to get you to say anything negative about him.
No.
Not all that stuff you said in the kitchen earlier when the mics went off.
I had my phone going.
That was Josh Sargent and Isaac White.
You should have heard the shit he was saying.
No, but you know what I mean? And Indian politics is strange.
Yeah.
Right? It is strange. I mean, when I entered in this, all I did want to do was help people. Right? Like if I was a fluent speaker, I probably wouldn't be sitting here talking about this stuff anymore. But I'm not. And all I wanted to do was help people. And I'll probably get crucified for this, but I don't think the Longhouse people even helps their own people. They help the families that they want to help, and that's not right.
I mean, they do run whole ceremonies and
I'll tell you this.
Eddie comes here very late at night to do.
I'll tell you this. When we moved back, my dad jumped headfirst into nation politics, right? And we as a family suffered for that. not one time when my father was gone, on behalf of Nation Business, did anybody come to my house and say, "Here, Martha, here's a pot of soup. Here's a loaf of bread." Not once. And they expected my dad to go everywhere.
Right.
And so we don't even take care of each other anymore. And that's why I'm bitter about the Longhouse. Because, you know, sometimes there's a facade that they like to put out there that we're spiritual people and, you know, Jesus never walked on water, but you know, the Gunneweed did.
Right.
Right. And you know, we play that up. We do. But we are nasty people to one another. We do not like each other. We hold grudges. Like there was a kid that I taught down in Ganaduk school. And the first thing that he said to me when he came in was, "Are you an anti-Hema?" Like, listen, you weren't even born when that stuff was going on, so why are you talking like that? And I knew who his father was, and then that's where it came from, and that's all right. You know, but if, you know, and we do this, and I don't like is we make our children not like the people that we don't like. You know,
I think that's common across.
I will tell you this.
It's not unique to.
No,
It's not unique to the Longhouse.
It's not unique to.
I'm sure when you walked into that tribal building, there were a lot of old white hair tribals going,
hell yeah.
"What's this fucking savage pagan motherfucker doing here?"
Yes. Oh yes. And you know, and that's cool because then they got to know who I was. Right. I'll never forget this. His son pushed my daughter. And I'm not saying my daughter is innocent. But he brought his son in and he made his son apologize. And his son cried. And you know what? That was the coolest thing that I had seen in a long time because he wanted his son to apologize to me for pushing my daughter.
And he apologized to her too.
Yes, he did. And that took a lot for that young man. What was he in 7th grade?
No, they were like 10.
10?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know
9,
what?
10 years old.
I went home and I yelled at my daughter and I said, "What?" And so she told me what happened and I said, "Well, you're not innocent. Now when he's going to apologize to you, and I want you to say that you're sorry to him because it wasn't just her. It was you know how kids are. Kids are awful. They started picking on Law, and then you know it's easy to do that, right? But it was difficult for her to apologize because I said I am going to ask that young boy if you apologize, and if you don't, you're going to be in big trouble. And she did. She went there. You know, she said you can talk to him, you can ask him, and I said, "Well, I believe you," and I never ever doubted that she did not apologize to him. But you know, and those are things that we try to teach our children.
And you know, I know that you know we're hot on the land claims issue. I think it's pretty clear Josh and I are not in favor of it.
That's cool.
And you know, I do agree with. I mean, we have that. Let's fight. You know, like that's the way I look at it.
Well,
Let's fight.
I think if it comes down to that, we're prepared to do that, but it's going to be a lone fight.
Are you sure with the lawyers that we have? They don't seem very. They don't seem very keen on. You know,
lawyers are lawyers. There's a lot of lawyers that know Indian law, but they stay within the bounds of their oath, right?
Well,
They work for the man. They're the man.
Yeah.
They are the man.
Yeah.
It's almost like a cult. They have a whole language. They keep everybody else out. It's a cult.
You can. Yeah. Okay.
No, it's like I was telling. He knows. I say this all the time because I worked with enough, you know, lawyers in the field for long enough. They speak their own language, you know, and like they. To me, it almost seems like they do it purposefully in order to make sure that you don't understand, so that you have to keep going to them, you know, and paying them. But on the other hand, I have met a lot of attorneys who truly do really just want to fight for what's right, you know, what's just, what's equal, what's equitable. And, you know, I mean, I could make the lawyer jokes all day. I think we probably all could. But yeah, I mean, I do think that there are lawyers out there who would take up that thing. And again, you know, I'll agree with you on that. You know, this is my opinion, you know, of what I want to do. But I know there are attorneys out there, native attorneys, who would see what the way we're looking at it and say, look, let's do this. You know, we can do this, and here's a plan. I mean, like, it's really disappointing to me, just the things that I've seen them say, the way that I've been told, you know, I wasn't there, but this is a person who was directly interacting with the attorney.
But it's still hearsay because you didn't hear it yourself.
That's fine.
Mm-hmm. But because you know how we are.
But as well,
and you can always go back and
I know, but I have no reason not to believe Ernest and Angela. You know, from what they told me, I have no reason to disbelieve them. Because I will say the people who I'm talking to, because I'm giving this to the entire community. When I did the story on the march, and I did apologize for that. Mm-hmm. That was my fault. I didn't call you back. But that's what they told me, and that's why, you know, you saw the article the way that it was. Mm-hmm. That was what they told me, is that, you know, Alex Page is not being responsive to them. And, you know, that's an issue. You know, the language that you see coming out from the tribe's attorneys too, it always seems to me that it's let's roll over and die. And I can't understand that. I just can't. Mm-hmm. I don't get that.
Well, again, that's your opinion, mm-hmm. Right? I would love to do exactly what you're doing, right? But I don't think that'll ever happen, right? Because I'm one vote, right? Until council changes into you know, more of a free thinking. And I'm not saying that the council is but you know, the way it is if your agenda doesn't fit theirs, so they're just like, just go sit over there, and you know, you can say what you want. You know, I'm not saying that they treat me like that, but that's how I've been treated in the past. Right?
Well, it's like, you know, you and I have talked about this stuff, and, you know, I would never disclose the shit that we talk about in mm-hmm. private unless I asked you and you said okay. Yep. But one thing that's a general thing that I think that, you know, is okay to share is the person who is on the council and comes out and just tells everybody what the real dysfunction is and what's really going on will be a fucking hero and would be in council for the rest of their lives if they wanted to. Mm-hmm. That really is the case. And I think that could be such a unifying thing. Not to just, you know, not to trash the other people on council, but to say, look, here's a beacon of someone who has the fortitude and the courage and really just the humanity to be honest with the people and say, look, these are the problems and I'm going to work on it. I want you there with mm-hmm. me. The person who does that one day, I will salute. I don't salute anybody, but I would very much congratulate that person and say thank you very much, and I would love to work with you.
One of the things, and it may be and may not be a sore issue, was when the men's council was formed. What was their sole duty to do? It was to unify the longhouses, to bring them back together, and that never happened. That never happened. Is it a good thing? Maybe. Spiritually, is it? No. Because now you have them calling you have both longhouses calling each other names. Right? They call, you know, the Nation Longhouse, the Handsome Lake Longhouse. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you know this, but most of the ceremonies that is done at the Guyan Lagoa Longhouse, they're Handsome Lake mm-hmm. ceremonies. But they'll never acknowledge that, right? I know.
Well, I've heard it said. I haven't tried to learn the exact details of how that's true.
The easiest one is one of the 4 sacred ceremonies.
Mm-hmm. Aduma,
right? Because when Scania de Leo addressed the people, he went to the 4 corners of the longhouse.
Yeah, he said,
And so I'm not saying that that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just saying that that's ingrained in our culture, right?
And I think it's often it's pointed out that people are influenced by Christianity. There ain't nothing we do that's not influenced by Christianity.
Absolutely.
And you know what I hate the most is when people say you're colonized. I go, yeah, did you walk here?
Yeah.
You know, I noticed you got, $450 sneakers on. Where's your moccasins?
Well, I think to me, colonization doesn't live in our material culture. It lives
Sure
in,
it does.
it lives in the assumptions we make.
Well, that's a symptom of it.
Yeah, it's a symptom of it, but it lives in the assumptions that we make.
But one of the biggest things, and that our people are getting very good at now, is keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because I know when I was growing up, everybody was poor,
Right.
right? And we helped each other. I don't know how many cords of wood that I've stacked for old people, right? I never asked. If I got cookies or a sandwich, I was happy about that. Now you can't even get a kid to mow a lawn. So that, the fabric of our society is changing.
Yeah.
And we have to accept that, right? We need, like, the language is very important. The stuff that going on and the Freedom School and everybody else is doing, I commend that. Because once we lose our language, we lose our connection to everything, right? That's what I was going back earlier. Well, like when they have midwinter, right? Tom Porter will get up and he'll talk, and then he'll make fun of, people on the other side, and everybody laughs, but not everybody knows what they're laughing at.
Right. They're pretending.
So so I will sit there, and they say, "How come you didn't laugh?" That's because I didn't know what he said. I knew some of it, but I didn't know the punchline.
I'm lucky if I can pick up one word out of 100.
But at least you're trying.
Yeah.
It's so cool to speak Mohawk because you get to do the ceremony twice. You get to say your piece in Mohawk, then you get to say it again in English.
Right.
There was we were in a meeting once in a longhouse, and Francis was speaking, and he, I would usually sit like near Francis, and so he speaks, and it's all in Mohawk, and of course, I'm just sitting there with my head down, like, embarrassed, because you guys know, even if like Looms, she's not a speaker, but she can understand what's being said because she grew up with the language, So of course, like everybody in there, even though they were younger, like my age, but they all understood what was being said. So Francis gets done, and he goes, "Does anybody not understand that?" And everybody looked at me, and I was like, "Oh, fuck, man." And everybody laughs.
Right.
I was like, man, Francis got me good on that one. But it was, it's...
Well, Aaron Oakes does the same thing.
Oh, Aaron's
like
awesome.
he'll come to a meeting, and then he'll speak Mohawk. And he'll say, if everybody didn't understand that, ask your neighbor. And most of the neighbors didn't know.
Yep.
He does have profound words.
Yeah.
But to me, he's also a hypocrite. And let me tell you why. You remember what happened in 1979 here? You probably weren't even born.
I was born.
You were born?
Yeah.
I wasn't born yet.
Okay.
2 years.
I was born. I was a baby.
So
born.
What happened?
You're talking about down at Lorenz?
Yes. So Aaron was a condoled Turtle Clan chief. And he walked away from that because he wanted to keep working. And I grew up with them, right? Him and my father are cousins. But when he did that, I lost respect for him. Because he walked away from a lifelong title. They respected him enough to raise him as a chief. And he walked away from that. He wasn't one of the ones that were indicted. And as soon as he found that out, it was easier for him, right? And this is the first time I'm saying it, but there are some times where I do not like him when he talks like that. Or he's saying because he called people at the tribe one time kneeling Indians, is that what they
Indians.
praying Indians, right? And there was a lot of people that got upset by that, right? And rightfully so. But he, like you said, he's entitled to his opinion, and it gets hard, right? It gets hard, like, because I know a lot of things. Yeah, I do. I grew up in an era where I've had the great minds at my table, Johnny Mohawk, Oren Lyons, the Haudenosaunee, what's his name, Bruce Elijah. There was a lot of people that passed through my house, and I was always allowed to sit at the table and listen. Was never allowed to speak, but I was allowed to sit there and listen. Couldn't question, but you absorb that stuff as 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, right? You absorb all of that. And where does it go? You know what I mean? Where does all of that go? To be honest with you, it goes nowhere now.
I don't think that that's the case.
No, in my case.
Oh, in your case.
In my case,
okay.
it does. It goes nowhere. Right? To me, it's not dead. It's just stored somewhere where I don't want it to come out.
You didn't even pass it to your kids?
They didn't want to. I couldn't even pass on my meatball recipe to my children. I have perfected my meatball. I tell you.
I've seen you on Facebook so many times.
But you know what I'm saying? I have, and it's stored. It's stored. And sometimes that makes me sad.
Well, I mean, isn't that part too, though, is that, I mean, the way that things are explained to me was that, in your generation and like you guys, whether or not you liked it, but you guys you're coming, you know what I mean? You're coming, you're going to be there. And I will be honest, I don't do that with my son. I don't. Even in my generation, I think a lot of us weren't like, no, you're doing this. I think that that's a lot of what we see now. And I just like, and I understand what you're saying. I just think that I think that we should be focusing on changing that and really working on how to fix that.
But you know what we don't ever say to each other? There's a couple things that we don't ever say to each other. Thank you. And I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I've never, the people that have wronged me, I've never heard them tell me they were
sorry. You know what's more rare? I was wrong.
Right.
Can't keep going on, but I mean, I think, we've come to an understanding. We don't agree on things. I just, no matter what, if the settlement goes through, I just would hope that I want you to, I would like it if you would think about what the legacy will be. You know what I mean?
For who?
For the ones that are coming after us. I don't think ultimately, like, I would rather be able to teach my grandkids that we fought and, did everything that we could to get that land, even if, because I also think the treaty is fraudulent. It was, the history of it. It was coerced. It was a bunch of bullshit. But I would still say, like, let's just fight it. Let's fight, because we do have, we have a good decision there. And that's all I would want. And I'd really like to see the council have the strength to like do that. And I don't see it.
I will tell you this, that if this settlement goes, we're going to fight, because that's all we have left. Right. But it's not going to be for the entire thing. Right. It's going to be for Hogansburg Triangle. And if we can get, that, we're never going to get it returned. So the only, the only thing that we're going to have, in our favor would be the land trust. I think every parcel it would be ratified immediately because of the Indian nature of the triangle.
Yeah, and I know that we've always had the government be so fucking honest with us, and that they would automatically do what we want them to do.
Where's that?
That's what I'm saying. It was sarcasm.
No.
Like
you're being.
I think you're being a little.
Here's the new word. It's not sarcasm.
Facetious.
Thank you.
Listen to these smart guys. They got a dictionary. Did your Grammarly teach you that?
Yeah. No, actually,
actually,
my girlfriend did. She called me facetious, and I was like,
I'm a writer, dude. Like, give me a little break.
He could use big words.
Yeah.
I sure can. I try not to, though.
Immense
But,
words.
here's a funny story, right? I did many things on this territory. One of my greatest things that I loved doing was play-by-play with Larry the Eagle Edwards. So one time we were doing a lacrosse game, and he goes, "So Ron, what'd you think of the game?" They beat them like 20-3, right? I'm like, Larry, I feel sorry for that netminder. He goes, "Why is that?" I go, "Because tonight he was inundated with a plethora of projectile missiles that he could not stop." He pulls the mic down and he says, "The fuck?" So he puts it back up, and I'm like, "You didn't understand a word I said, did you?" He's like, he had a lot of shots thrown at him tonight.
Yeah.
So
20-3, that's pretty bad.
but it's, you know what I mean? I love this community. I do. I tell people I wasn't born here, but I'm gonna die here. My grandchild, my only grandchild, her birthing stuff, her placenta and her belly button are buried in our yard. So she will always have a home. And I mean, that's what I can leave, right? That would be my legacy. Everything else is it's, to me, it's water under the bridge. As long as my family's taken care of, as long as I've taken care of my family.
And I understand that. I'm just saying, like, in a position that you're in, I would really hope that you would think wider, like about everybody. That's all.
Right.
That's all.
I agree. And thank you for that. I don't see that as criticism. I see
that wasn't
as advice.
Yeah.
Right. Because we're quick. Yeah. Like you're giving me advice. Somebody would have said, "Jesus, what the hell's wrong? What's his problem?" But that's how we are. That's how we're better at communicating that way than we are being nice to each other.
See how he disarmed me there with a compliment?
You know what I mean?
He's learning this. Hanging out with Cuomo's taught him that.
Here's the thing, right? People say, why are you doing that show?
I was surprised that you did it.
You're my friend.
Yeah.
Did I come here thinking that you were going to sabotage me? No, I didn't. Because you know what? Aside from this, we can go out. Well, it used to be able to go out and have a smoke.
That's why I want to end, because I want to go have one.
But no, we're friends.
Yeah.
Right. I think we're friends more than acquaintances.
Yeah.
I've been on their show. That scared the shit out of me. I'll be honest with you, because him is okay. Getting Johnny Big Tree, he just he's like, well, you know what, Josh, you're out. Useless
William
piece
are
of
fucking
him. You're a useless
wild.
piece of utda. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, what's going on? And then Will stands up, and I'm like, man, why do you look like a big fat olive? He had that green suit on. Even the hat, the shoes and socks matched.
Nice.
And I was like, well, man, you look like a big fat olive. He takes his shirt off. I don't know what kind of shirt he had, but we're all buddies.
Yeah, it's
right. And him and I have had our differences. You and I have had our differences. But at the end of the day, when I came here, Josh met me. He came pulled up almost at exactly the same time.
Almost exactly the same time.
And I didn't sit in my car and wait till you got here.
Yeah.
I came in. We talked until you got here.
Nor did I didn't expect that you would have. Like it, and that's the thing is like, I don't know. Maybe I'll catch heat. Maybe I wasn't like, I don't know. I think that we were pretty.
You were tame.
I think we.
It was tame. There were some questions.
We went at it, pretty decently, but because that wasn't the goal. It wasn't the. It's the thing is to raise the questions and be forceful, but
get an honest answer.
And the goal isn't to win.
No,
there's no winning.
Because information is
right. Because if you go into anything with that kind of attitude, if you want to be the winner, guess what? Mm-hmm. Somebody has to lose.
And the thing is,
and we can't afford that.
I guarantee you got more pushback here than you've ever gotten from any other. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Any other outlet or whatever.
And you know what? I'm still sitting here.
And that's why
an hour and what? Well, you shut it off.
It's been over an hour.
Oh, an hour and 24 minutes.
No, I didn't shut it off.
Oh, because I see live 000.
Holy shit! I didn't know we went almost an hour and a half.
But that's cool. You know what I mean?
Well, this is what I love to do this.
Because you didn't say, Ron, you're an effing a-hole.
Yeah.
I never said...
I only do that when we're in private.
Exactly. You know, and it's as a joke.
Yeah.
Right? Because we can joke. He can call me a skinny fuck, and I can call him... Oh, I didn't mean to say that. But,
what, a fat fuck? Go ahead. I don't care. That's what, I never understand why fat people get offended because it's like, dude, I know I'm fucking
It's descriptive.
Fat. Yeah.
You know what?
There we go. I'm a writer, bitch.
You know, wait till I see you.
Yeah.
But, you know, here's what one time... I was standing in line at Longhouse to get food, right? So I'm standing there, and a woman comes up to me who's supposed to be a faith keeper. She comes up and she says, "Boy, Ron, you're fat." So I turned around and I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I'm fat, but you're ugly. And I can always lose weight. But you're always going to be ugly. And it's not that she was ugly in the face, just her... At that particular time, she was an ugly person because, you know, nice people don't say that.
Yeah, I mean...
Especially somebody who's in a leadership role.
I know there was, like... I mean, you get some of the old people who can be a little, you know...
They're mean.
Oh,
yeah, because you know why? They were brought up like that.
But that's, like... I appreciate it. Like, that's why... I mean, you know, I hang out with Dudas all the time. Like, I just have a good time. They're my friends. And, you know, sometimes I think we need that Duda force, you know, like just maybe you need to get checked once in a while, you know. Oh,
I get checked all the time, and it doesn't bother me.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It does not bother me, and like tonight, I'll probably when this airs, a lot of people are going to say, "Why did you do that?" And I said, "Because you know what? If I didn't, then you wouldn't know what these two young gentlemen are talking about, or what they're thinking about, or what the younger people are thinking about."
So one of the values I want to see changed, I see people bringing in. This is why I'm distrustful so much of like our official entities. Is this idea of like professionalism and decorum, and it to me it's being fake. It's an inauthentic way to be, and that's how the whites are.
Right.
And they're unhappy. They're unhappy people. We see our people are unhappy. I mean, Americans are not happy.
No.
They're almost ready to go to war.
Yep.
That'll be interesting to watch from the sidelines. From
but
Canada.
You know what? You're going to have a lot of hillbillies here, boy.
I mean,
they're going to come out and they're going to come to the res and they're not going to be met with open arms. I'll tell you that. You know what I mean? And I'm hoping that we never see that.
I hope not either.
Because that would be a terrible, terrible thing to have happen.
But they're unhappy people, and we shouldn't be copying them. Their institutions don't work well. Why are we copying them? They're good at organization. I'll give them that. They're good at war, but they're not good at like loving each other. And so that's I would like to see that value change within our institutions, where we get better at that.
Yeah. One of the things that like I told my girlfriend, it's like, man, I'm gonna have to work until I'm 800. She's like, why? I said, because the kids now, they don't care, right? They don't care, and you know, I see a brain drain happening in the near future, where their kids are gonna get educated and they're gonna leave, and that's okay, right? That's okay, but we have lost an opportunity to better our community. And
we did that then. Like if the case is we did that because we raised these kids. These kids are a product of our programming. Therefore, we allowed it to happen. We put them in an institution that taught them that stuff.
9 times out of 10, we allowed it.
Yeah, we allowed it to happen. We went with the flow. We did what the experts told us to, and that's why the new church is university. Right, that's the new church of the people. That's the bar they set. That's the colonial bar in their mind to be good.
You know, the dangerous thing that they did do is when they wiped out affirmative action, because you know what, the education system that it was never intended for us. It was intended for the rich elite white people, right? You know where the term white people came from?
No idea.
Here, it was a way to divide the races, right? At first, it was.
You mean Americans or from our people?
The Americans.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay.
Because if you go over, say you go to Europe, say you go to Germany, they say, "Are you white?" No, I'm German.
I'm French.
I'm Bavarian. I'm this. I'm that.
Yeah.
It's only here. What are you Scottish? No, I'm white.
Yeah.
Are you Irish? No, I'm a real person.
Yeah. And they'll
Fuck
say,
you.
but the difference, you guys are so, but
Well,
the
he
difference,
knows I'm fucking half Irish.
well, here, let me tell you a story. Okay. So
damn it, Josh.
my this is a story from my grandmother, right? My grandmother was a ginger. And I could never figure that. She spoke Mohawk. She didn't know how to read and write. She wasn't Indian. She just had red hair.
Yeah.
So my grandfather used to always tease her and call her Irish. Oh, you're Irish. So I asked her one time, I said, you know what? Why does he call you that? She said, my grandfather, his name was John O'Reilly. He came over from Ireland in the second potato famine.
Okay.
And they brought him to the port of Montreal, and they changed his name to Bouvier.
Oh, no.
So when he got to Ganasadaga, he changed it from Bouvier to Bova, B-O-V-A, right? All the other ones in Oka are Bouviers, right? Like Janelle, she's a Bouvier, right? Yeah. And her family comes from Ganasadaga, right? So that's my connection, right? I'll say it, and I'm not ashamed of it, right? There's no such thing as a full-blooded Mohawk. No such thing. No such thing.
Well, I mean,
But that's not.
no. Like the way we do blood quantum, the way we even look at our people is like a product of eugenics from the late 19th century, early 20th century.
Yeah,
like it's the last vestige of eugenics.
Yeah,
it's weird.
And it's a way to eradicate people.
It's
right? Because there are some tribes in Minnesota that they are so crazy that if I'm a White Mountain Chippewa and you're a Red Lake Ojibwe, same people, same they're Ojibways, right? They're Anishinaabe, right? They don't count each other's blood. So I know a guy who lives, I can't remember the community, but he said in the last 10 years they've enrolled 2 people.
Jesus.
I know a lady from here whose dad is from Six Nations and mother's from a tribal member, counted as half.
Yeah. My kids, exactly, right? My father-in-law was a Pultec from Mexico, right? His family still speaks their language, right? So when I registered my child, Pam Brown came down and said, well, we met and your kids are only 75%. I'm like, what are you talking about? They're full Indians. Oh, she said they're only 75% Indian. I go, no, they're not. They're actually 100% Indians. And she goes, well, no, they're 75% Mohawk. And I'm like, oh, okay, go, because don't say that, because that's hurtful.
So what do we do to change that?
We are we're starting the survey process now. Are we going to keep blood quantum? I hope not. I think that we need to start accepting lineal descent. And the reason why I say that
is our tradition as well.
Exactly, because you know what? People don't know our own history. Right? They do.
Where'd the name Tarbell come from?
Where'd the name LaFrance come from?
Yeah.
Where every name
Where did every name come from?
Have you ever you know Peter Garl, right?
Yep.
Have you ever had him ask you the question, what's the only Mohawk last name? And he told me it was Sawatis.
Yeah.
And I never
There's others.
There was
here.
There's Boots, there's Point, there's Round Point.
And there was they live in Oka now. They were related to Gabe Oaks. His name is Harrison Habopsway. Hanopsway. That name originated here.
Oh, really?
Hanyost. That name originated
really?
here.
Now it's in Oneida.
Yeah.
Here?
And now, yes. So we did have blacks, like not black people, but the name blacks. Tuesdays.
We only have whites now.
Touche.
Kiss my big ass.
But no, I think if we were to stick with blood quantum, that in 50 years we'd have no more people.
Oneida, Wisconsin has a date. They have a date where there's no more. It's like 2064 or something like that. It's not far away. They've mapped out the math.
It's like the mob. They're not making anybody anymore.
Well, what are they hung up and stuck on the blood quantum?
They must be. I learned this a few years ago.
Yeah, because that's sad.
Yeah,
that's sad. If you are willing to let your people no longer exist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not the way it should.
And why?
And
You know what I mean? I just
here-
don't understand that.
And here's the thing about why we are so protective of keeping the blood quantum is that big elephant down the road, right? You have that casino down the road, and everybody thinks that we should be getting per caps. And that's why there's a big push to keep blood quantum. Right? Oh, I'm not going to get less. I'm going to get less fuel. No, you're not. You're not. You know, the head of household is the head of household.
Yeah.
You know, whether
Yeah.
you have 40 kids that are that don't make quantum.
Right.
So, but and here's the end. Here's the thing that's the most sad thing about blood quantum. Who does it punish?
Children.
Kids, yeah.
Children,
Always the kids.
right? I know my grandmother told me, she goes, you know, I don't want you to marry a white person. And I said, why? What if I fall in love with one? She said, because they will never be accepted here. And when I grew up, there wasn't a lot of half Indians that actually lived on the territory.
You can say half-breed. I say
I didn't
half-breed.
want, you know what? That's like saying the N-word.
Not to me.
Well, it is to me.
I don't have a problem with it.
Well, you know, and that's cool, but I do.
Yeah.
I don't like that word. I don't ever. You'll never hear that come out. Even you know, if I'm in the bar or whatever,
Yeah.
which I don't frequent that much anyway. But you will never hear that word out of my mouth because
Yeah.
I said that. I remember saying it one time. You know, my grandmother did. She put soap in my mouth, and then she took a Brillo pad 2 times.
Look at you, us hybrids with our genetic diversity.
Actually,
our nice
Josh
teeth.
keeps saying hybrid. I actually like hybrid.
What do you mean by hybrid?
It's like a mix.
When you
it's
mix 2
mixed.
plants, you get a hybrid.
Yeah.
Oh,
Or dogs.
Dogs.
Hybrid
Yeah.
dogs.
Yeah. When you get a Rottweiler and a
And did you know hybrids are actually sturdier, and because they have the benefit of
Both
genetics
worlds.
from both sides. And
they don't get the weird jawline.
Well, that's the other thing. Like I used to argue with my mother-in-law all the time, but she was from Onkweonwe, and they think.
Oh, there's no mixing up there.
No.
Yeah.
I mean,
So,
they are. I've never
so-
seen more Indian-looking people ever in my life.
It's like any other community across Canada, right? Except when you go into some of those Cree communities way up
Right.
north.
Yeah.
But if you look up, and I would tell her, did you ever catch a cold? She was like, yeah. And you didn't die? No. Well, then you're not full blood. Because at some point in your history, somebody introduced that thing to fight a cold, where before we didn't have it, right? Common cold, flu, all that other crap that wiped us out. So, and she would argue, and I'm whatever, you know what I mean? But that was the thing about you know, about being accepting. Like that's who we were as people, right? We fought each other to the nth degree, but at the end of the day, we were all Mohawks.
Well, you don't build a world-spanning Christianity without converting people and saying you're not good enough to be this. Like if people want to be you, like
Just sometimes I don't even want to be me.
yeah.
You know what I mean? It's tough.
Don't get me started on
It's
myself.
you know what I mean?
I love
But
myself.
where does that come from? You do.
I do.
And you know why? Because you have that different training that him and I don't.
Because
You know what I've liked to have gotten into is Buddhism.
okay. You still can.
I know I can. Because if you think about it, it's the closest religion to us.
Yeah. I mean, yoga is all about the
I
mind.
heard you talk about that at a meeting once, I think. Right?
Yeah.
You did before, right?
And I got crucified. You know, because if you think
I
about
remember that.
Buddhists are the most docile people you'll ever meet, unless you fuck with them, right? And then they do all that praying mantis shit on your ass, right? Because they do the yoga and they do the tai chi and all that good stuff,
Yeah.
right? Because at the end of the day, you're not doing that because you want to get in shape. You're doing that to exercise your mind.
Yeah.
We don't do that enough.
Right.
You know, but the hardest thing was you weren't there yet, but I went into your room, or you were gone for and I sat there, and I can't remember who, I think it was Mary. She goes, I want you to close your eyes. So she brought me to a place where I had never, ever been before. I was at peace with myself. It was a good feeling. Whenever the kids were freaking out, I say, you need to go to the wellness room. You need to go there and you need to talk to them or let them talk to you. And you know what? The kids liked it there. They do. Mm-hmm. When the kids were having a bad day in night class, go down the hall. Mm-hmm. Here's a pass, just go. So, it's good. I really enjoyed this, guys. I haven't been home since 8 o'clock this morning.
Yep.
I've been out campaigning. I spent all of the day basically at Sunrise Acres.
Oh, yeah?
It was great.
Yeah.
I'm going back there tomorrow.
Yeah.
Old people, elders, they have a different perspective on life. Mm-hmm. Right? I met a couple women today that I knew them, but I didn't know them.
Right.
And they were like, they talk bad about you. And I go, that's okay. That's why I'm here. And they were, they said, you're going to take away the elders benefit program. No, I'm not. I don't know why they keep saying that. We're trying to actually find out ways to diversify so we can keep this going. Mm-hmm. Well, that's not what they're telling us. And I said, well, that's why I'm here. Right. So if you have any issues or you have any questions, I'll answer them. Right. And to be honest with you, there's a lot of people who could care less, but they want to be heard. And you'll never, ever see me like tonight. You guys invited me. I came here. You know where there's one place my children don't come with me? To the store. You know why? Because it takes me 45 minutes to buy a loaf of bread and a gallon of milk, right? Because everybody knows me. Everybody wants to talk to me. Everybody, and that's what I do. I don't ever say, can you call the office and make an appointment? You'll never hear, they'll be coming out of the store. And I'll still be standing
I have seen
there.
people who are in high positions at the tribe who do that shit.
You're never going to see that from me. I think you know that. I think you know that. I've never like when they asked me to come on.
Yeah.
I was terrified because Johnny can be crazy, and Will's when the two of them get together, they feed off of each other, right? And I'm like, but it's
fun to watch.
We had a great time, and when it aired, people were like, I never knew Ron was that funny. He kept right up with them because we're all just talking like buddies,
right?
Right, and then I thought it was coming on to explain the land claims, and he says at the end, is there an extinguishment language in there? And I said, no. That's all I needed to know. And I was like, oh, shit, we should have said that in the first 2 minutes.
Yeah, because that's this show. That's
this show.
What happened tonight, that's what we do.
Like where does this air? Is it on YouTube?
YouTube. It'll be on Spotify. So here's my trick. I have 3 shows on our Aboriginal Outlaws feed so they can all steal each other's viewers.
Yep. Okay.
So
yeah, I did like when you said it's called Sage Against the Machine. I'm like,
Actually, Will came up with that
Will
name.
yeah,
he was like
Sage
he thought he was being funny.
And when he said it, we were like,
damn.
yeah. Let's do it.
Dun, 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 dun,
Because not everybody's political, but a lot of people just either don't give a shit or they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So
and I think we can make it like just the way that we speak, and
well,
we can make it accessible for people, and
the biggest
we're wild too.
The biggest problem, the biggest problem is the lethargy in our community. People are so lethargic.
Yeah,
and then they complain.
Yeah.
And I got a friend that says, did you vote? And they'll be like, no, then you don't have that right to complain. You had a right to make a change.
Yeah, I don't agree with that, but I understand the sentiment. I don't agree with it.
You do anything else.
Yeah.
You don't have to vote.
Right.
You get active at some point.
But I don't think you should. Somebody should say, well, Ron LaFrance doesn't do his job.
Yeah.
Right? And, well, did you vote for whoever he ran against? No, I don't vote. Well, then you can't say that he's not doing his job. Right? And I think I do a good job. Right, I don't shy away. Like Isaac's asked me, some tough questions, and I answer them. I came here. To be honest
Isaac
with you,
always asks tough questions.
well, they're not easy questions.
Well, I want to actually. I was going to ask you about that before because, but I try to keep Indian time, the reporting separate from this, but like, you know, we'll talk about it after, off the air.
All right. Yeah. So I had a great time tonight, guys. I'm hungry. I had a slice of pizza at 2:00, and
Hey, that's not good.
I know.
Drive your blood sugar up
I
that way.
know. But that's the only thing I had all day.
No.
So I had a slice of toast this morning, but you know, I was out campaigning, and you sit there with dudas, and you can't be like, well, I can give you 35 minutes.
Maybe some cookies, Dada.
Yep.
Not once did I get offered
Glazer, mustard, and
butter.
Oh,
All right, you're listening to Sage Against the Machine. I'd like to thank our guest, Ron LaFrance.
thank you very much,
Thank
Ron.
you. Thank you for inviting me. I had fun.
Thank you for coming. I'm Joshua.
I'm Isaac.
Onkweonwe.